even remotely consensual or enjoyable. Just because you wait 30 days doesn't make you any less of a rapist. The Bible records stories of men's mistreatment of women. Sometimes it's not even condemned. It's the sexual sin part. I mean, when King David was confronted by the prophet Nathan, he wasn't condemned for seizing a woman who was in a power imbalance. He was accused of taking another man's property he did not own. In the Old Testament, men could have multiple wives, concubines, sex slaves. He could have any woman, whether he was married to her or not, provided she wasn't another man's property who was married. If a man took a woman and she was not married, he had to pay for her and provide for her. Biblical marriage has nothing to do with consent, equality, choice. There are a few women in the Bible that made a choice to marry certain patriarchs. I think Rebecca was one of them. She married Isaac, the grandfather of the 12 tribes of Israel, the son of Abraham. Some women, like Abigail, married King David by choice. But did they really have a choice? I mean, most of these women married men to get out of their home, to get away from their family, to have something of their own. If you didn't marry or have a male relative up until 100 years ago, you were probably going to sink into solicitation, prostitution. Men created an environment where women were, their very existence, life, and enjoyment is based off how men took care of women. I mean, the Bible never condemns how men treat women. The Bible never condemns slavery, never condemns anything that doesn't violate property rights. This is why when women were witnesses in trials, you needed twice as many women witnesses than men witnesses. Women's word in court was worth half of a man's. This is how society viewed a woman. Women, it was so easy for men to divorce women back in the day until the Catholic Church came on the scene, and then it was much harder. But back during the Jewish biblical times, a man could get rid of his wife for any reason. And you think women had access to getting rid of a man that easily? How many women have ended up in honor killings and left to die or be disgraced because men are so obsessed with women's purity and women's reproduction? Even though back then, everything was about a man. If a man wanted you and you weren't married, he just took you. And it's still like that in many countries, even in 2025. The way churches don't talk about the way people were treated in the Bible. If you weren't Jewish and they came up to your doors, they killed everyone, took the women, killed all the livestock. These kind of behaviors were never condemned. And the only time, if they were condemned, it was because they didn't give enough to God, or they had taken the spoils of war, but they were contaminated due to the religion of the people they had committed genocide against. The Bible records dozens of passages of genocide. God killed babies. God punished women for man's mistakes. If a godly man who really wasn't godly at all fell it was usually due to the temptation of a woman who wasn't seen as a first-class citizen. I mean, the way we treat women, even in 2025, is due to how people accept and take the Bible at face value. Any country that's ruled, or the majority of people in the country are spiritual and belong to a world religion, they don't treat women very well. They just don't. The countries where women are the most vulnerable, where most violent or sexual violence occurs, is in countries that are ruled by a religious group or a world religion. And it's really sad how women really still are treated terribly. Where half the women in some countries have been assaulted or married off at the ripe age of 10. There are states in the U.S. where at 14 your parents can marry you off to someone in their 60s. I heard that this still happens in Utah. The Bible does not condemn the way men misuse and profit and traffic human beings. And it's not just women. There are stories in the Bible that are used to explain the progression of countries and Jewish history. And women are just treated awful. I mean, the Nativity story, a middle-aged man marries a woman who probably is under 16. And she would have been stoned to death because men had no concept of virginity. Virginity doesn't exist. It's a social construct, so a father could sell his daughter for more money. The way women and people who didn't fit into gender roles, how they were treated in biblical times, the freedom to worship as you wanted didn't exist. In Jewish culture, if you worshipped any other god at the wrong time, in the wrong way, they killed you. There are numerous recorded incidences in the Bible where God told his prophet to go and kill all the high priestesses of another religion. God told the Jews to kill everyone who didn't follow this specific God. The Bible celebrates and commands genocide. To murder, to seize, to assault, to own women. Anyone who dressed the opposite of the gender would have been killed. People who are transgender nowadays, they would have been put to death in the Bible. This is how righteous and biblical people call the Bible. The Bible celebrates genocide and only condemns genocide when it comes against the Jewish people. The Jewish people have done genocide. They killed most of the people who live in the ancient Judean area, which ironically, all of those tribes that are mentioned in the Old Testament, they were all related to each other. The Edomites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, they were all related. They all came from Abraham or Lot. And the way the law of Moses viewed women was as though they were property. The Ten Commandments was all about property. Thou shalt not say false witness was to protect man's property. Thou shalt not kill was to protect men's property. Thou shalt not commit adultery in the original Jewish language. Thou shalt not commit adultery is not exactly what it said, because in Jewish culture, adultery meant taking a man's property. Adultery is only wrong not because it hurts people, not because it is an offense to the woman, it's because you're stealing another man's property.